Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about the supernatural, fantasy, and/or sci-fi shows that I like that I'm currently watching. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about this week's episode of The 100 and Colony. Let's start off with The 100. We have Lexa kind of struggling with the new concept that she's pushing. For the longest time, the Grounders themselves have always kept one rule. Basically, blood must be paid with blood. So basically, if you kill some of their people, they have to kill some of your people to kind of bring balance. It's the only way retribution can be obtained. But Clark has kind of talked her into not seeking retribution. You know, specifically for the retribution of Pike and his people, including Bellamy, slaughtering those soldiers that Lexa sent there to watch over Arcadia to make sure nothing happens to them. We've seen an example of obviously the blood being paid with blood when it came to Finn last season when he massacred that entire village. To avoid war, Finn had to die. So Lexa's pushing more for, because of Clark's counsel, she's pushing more towards not, living that way anymore, that vengeance isn't the only way to live by, which she worries that basically her council members won't really go along with this, and a lot of them aren't going to go along with it. They're going to look at this as weakness because this is the way they've always lived, and for them to not to be changing all of a sudden, it's a lot to take in. I mean, especially like they lost a lot of good people, a lot of warriors because of Pike and his people. So, and to not be able to get revenge for the lives lost, that's a lot to chew on. And along those lines, we also have Clark dealing with the return of, I'm not even sure his name, but he was a pretty prominent member of the people at Mount Weather. He was a person you saw from time to time. He was kind of like one of their kind of security people, I think. Basically, he's returned. It was kind of like an offering from, I guess, another tribe to Lexa. Really was more so for Clark because it was a gift for Juanita. Because obviously, like, she did wipe out all the mountain men. Granted, she was in that position where she didn't really have much of a choice. I mean, you could argue she had one, but it's like she had to choose between the mountain people, whether, a majority of them were obviously innocent people and they never did anything wrong, but there were quite a few of them that did some wrong, led to killing a lot of Grounders as well as some of the Sky people trying to, heal their radiation sickness. So they gain an immunity from the radiation or whatever. But, Clark had to make a choice. Her and Bellamy and Monty had to make the choice of leaving Mount Weather's people alive or just killing them so that they can make sure their people survive. So, and this guy's here as at a critical point because, you have Clark telling Lexa all this stuff about like, no blood should be shed. We shouldn't be seeking vengeance, but she wants vengeance for her being put in that position that she was in at Mount Weather. I mean, it's because of his people that she was in that situation in the first place. If they hadn't kidnapped her people and tried to kill them as a means of making sure they survive, she wouldn't have had to kill their people to make sure her people survive, And Lexa thinks it's a little, ironic that, like I said, that Clark doesn't want the Grounders to take vengeance on the Sky people, but she wants to take vengeance on this mountain man. So basically, she says there's two choices you have. He can be banished, or you can make him suffer death by 49 cuts. And along that situation, we also have Titus, kind of the right-hand man to Lexa, kind of going towards Clark and pointing out that irony and telling her that she has to change Lexa's mind about, she's the one to introduce Lexa to this whole like not shedding blood thing. It's like, no, you need to change your mind back because you yourself can see there's no value in this because you want us to save your people from my people getting retribution against your people for what they did, but you were quick to kill this mountain man. So he's pointing out the irony behind that. But Clark finally made her choice by the end of the episode, and her choice was not to kill him because she realized that her killing him was just her. It wasn't getting revenge for anyone that the mountain men had, the people at Mount Weather had killed, or whether it was, for putting her friends in danger. It would be her killing him just so that she could ease her own pain about what she did, because she will have to live with that for the rest of her life. That weighing down on her. And she's like, because I can't accept that. I will always have to bear that burden. But she's like, with a little bit of a smile on her face, she's like, I hope you live for a long time, or kind of live forever. Because the whole point of banishment is he will have to, obviously live on, but always live on with the pain he has, walking with the ghost, a reminder of all the people he lost. And I guess in some way that in itself is kind of revenge. It's like, personally, it's like the mountain men kind of got what they want. I mean, yeah, like I said, they had their reasons for doing what they did, but they put the dominoes in effect because they pushed the Sky people to be in a position, like Clark and her group, into a position that they couldn't find an easy way out. So. But that's not all that happened in this episode. I know I was talking about that for a really long time. We also have Pike up to some stuff. Basically, earlier in the episode, you see Monty's mom, as well as two others from Pike's little group, checking water and soil samples. Octavia is nearby watching them do this on the orders of Kane. And basically, a grounder child appears, and just to make sure that child doesn't report back to other grounders about what they're doing, they try to kill the kid. It's like, really? Like, it's a kid. Let's not forget, your son isn't that much older. Your son's maybe 18 or 19. So it's like, would you really be all gung-ho about killing a kid? Surprisingly, yeah, they are. Especially if it's to hide what they're doing. And we quickly find out what it is they were doing. They were testing the water and the soil because they're trying to grow crops. Because by their calculations, Arcadia has maybe a year's worth of food left. So they're deciding to start growing crops. But the thing is, a village nearby that spot they were checking out is a great place to grow crops. But there is a grounder village there. And they're like, we need that soil. So they plan on wiping out this entire village. But then Bellamy's like, but they're not soldiers. They're just villagers, because we wiped out all the soldiers, like all the warriors. So it's nothing but just villagers there. And Pike kind of rebuttals. It's like, do you want to let this village stay here, or do you want to make sure your people don't starve? Kind of being like, where do your priorities lie? Bellamy is obviously still a little reluctant about it, and so is Monty. But he's like, I kind of hate that whole Pike situation. Pike and Bellamy situation. Bellamy's always kind of like, he's a little kind of slightly reverting back into slightly who he was in the first season. I mean, not as like cocky and full-headed, just like quick to kill type of, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't necessarily like that in the first season. I don't know what I'm saying. It's just sad to see Pike, speaking into his ear, whispering in his ears like that. It's because, Bellamy's just heard about this whole thing. There's a whole thing that happened in Mountain Weather. It's always weighed on him this entire time. And the only person, he felt close to that, could help him through all that was Clark. But she just up and left him behind, left him to hold on to that burden. It wasn't just her burden. It's also his as well. And, then the whole thing at Mount Weather where they lost quite a few people, including his girlfriend, and it was a grounder that did it. And granted, that grounder was from the Ice Nation, but nevertheless, it's all too much. And then, he's got the guilt over that, and Pike happens to be talking to him, and it just, I don't know. I just feel bad because, he's just, Bellamy isn't 100% set on doing what they're doing. He has reservations, but he's so angry that, I feel like he's just using all of this as an outlet. Basically what happens is that they decide that they're going on, they go towards the village, guns in hand. Previously, Octavia, having gotten word from Kane, decides to go warn the villagers. But when she does go warn the villagers, they're reluctant at first, but then like, okay, we'll listen. But actually, they don't listen. They actually knock Octavia out, and basically they set up. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's basically oil all around the village, so that when the Sky people Arcadia finally gets there, they'll be ready. Essentially, what they did was they waited till the convoy got there, and they're all in the village, and then they fired arrows and basically not burnt the entire village, but the oil was actually it released some kind of gas when it ignited. Basically, that ended up destroying the village as well as ruining the soil, so it's not even possible for them to use it. The Arcadia team ended up losing someone. I think they actually lost 2 people. Octavia was able to warn them in time about, the Grounders' counterattack, but like I said, they still lost 2 people. And Pike is like, yo, your sister, put this all in motion. Bellamy's like, no, she tried to warn us, yes, but after she warned the Grounders, that means we have a leak. And it's like, we know who it is. They're like, yeah, it's Kane. And Pike wants Bellamy to bring him proof, because he can't do anything until he has proof. And then finally, I want to note about Thelonious and his little City of Light groupies. It's more like a freaking cult. He's been passing around those little, I call it little pills, but obviously they're not pills. They're like, hexagonal, like little, they're nano machine things that he's basically been given to people. We saw Raven take one last week in the previous episode, and now Abby's checking her out. Her leg still is messed up, but she just doesn't feel the pain. Abby's a little reluctant, about this whole miracle cure that Thelonious is passing around, and she wants to study it a little bit more. We have Jasper, obviously seeing this, because he came to Raven and told her about the fact is that he kind of lost Finn's ashes. But she kind of didn't react to it. She's like, no, I don't hate you. It's okay. He's like, okay, what are you on and can I get some of it? Basically goes to Thelonious and tries to get some from Thelonious. And Thelonious is about to give him one until Abby shows up and snatches it out of his hand and goes, let me study this first, because we don't know what kind of side effects it might have. And she's like, would you willingly give this to Wales? And then Thelonious is like, who's Wales? And then everyone kind of freaked out a little bit, and he has the computer program, Allie, tell him, Wells is your son. He's like, right, it's my son. And in that moment, Abby realized he forgot his son. So all the pain, it blocks, I guess, certain memories. Anything that's tied to any pain, it erases that. Maybe that's why Raven was so okay with the fact is that Jasper spilled Finn's ashes, because she doesn't remember Finn because it's wiped from her brain. So Abby ends up snatching the rest of those, whatever they are, from Thelonious. And we also have Thelonious having Raven work on a side project. Basically, there's another version of the program, of Allie's programming. It was supposedly somewhere on the Ark, and he has Raven searching for it. I mean, it's like, what is Thelonious really up to? What is their plan? I mean, leading people towards the City of Light, I get it, all that cult bullcrap. But, what is it they're really after? What is Allie planning on doing once she gets this other programming? I mean, I doubt it can be anything good. Moving on to Colony. We have the Resistance. Well, not the Resistance in its entirely, just Quail believing that Katie is playing double agent, that she's playing them, and whatever intel she's giving them is actually intel from her husband, so meaning the whole thing's a setup. But you have Rashard being like, no, that's not the case. But then Quail's like, well, look at it. Ever since Katie's joined up, we've had nothing but mess ups here and there. Our hideouts have been given away. We've lost good men. So it's like, obviously, Katie's playing double agent. And, which we as the audience know that's total B crap. She's not working as a double. She's not working with Will or the Red Hats. Will is just that good at his job, and it's sad that they don't realize that. At one point in the episode, Quail basically wants Rashard to take care of the situation with Katie. So he takes Katie up to a desert spot, and he's like, he tells Katie a little bit more about himself. He tells her about his dad, which, that basically his dad always told him that you should only trust yourself, because his dad basically took, I think, all the money his family had and just bailed on him. Basically, this leads to him questioning Katie. He's like, so, Katie, you have to answer me honestly. Basically, he questioned her loyalty, and she's like, really? After everything I'm done, you guys have the audacity to question my loyalty? I'm the one that's in danger here. I mean, I'm putting everything on the line, my family on the line, because I believe in what you're doing. Which, granted, I've always thought she only worked with the Resistance because they were well, really, she only wanted, in the beginning, it was mainly because she felt like she can get her son back, because if they end this whole occupation, then that means she can leave and go track down her son. But I mean, now, I've never really heard her really talk about the fact that she really believes in what they do. But more so than anything, she really believes in Rashard. Like, she felt like he was one person in the group that really understood her, but now that trust is kind of shaken because of him questioning her loyalty like that. And it's not even just questioning her loyalty. Katie pieced it together. She saw the way he was looking at her, the way he was acting, and she just walked away. He's like, I could give you a drive. She's like, no, I'd rather walk home. He's like, it's dangerous. She's like, I'm pretty sure I'd be better off on my own. And then we see him like pull out his gun, and he's just like, crap, kind of, he's got that look on his face like, damn it, this situation sucks. He was sent there to kill her, not just talk to her. I mean, he was there to make sure, because, like I said, he has reservations about the whole idea that Katie's actually a double agent. But it's like, he doesn't want to act upon it. He thinks Quail is wrong, but, And at the same, while this is all happening, we have Will trying to track down Rashard. We see the Rolodex, ain't that what it's called? The little machine. We see it get used for the first time, and it's scary just how much information that thing can gather. It's saying that the Rolodex has gathered every bit of information about a person from the beginning of their life all the way up to the occupation. So everything in between that time period, it has information on social media, what you did as a job, family, whatever. It has all the information there is on you. It's pretty scary to think about something having that much of a conglomerate of information. And basically they find out, well, at the time, Rashard is known as Dwight. So basically they're using a Rolodex to try and find out more about Dwight. And we end up finding out, Dwight is actually had some military jobs back in the day. Will kind of pieces it together at first, but then it's revealed that basically, he's had top class jobs like part of the CIA, because he has over 14 different identities in the database. At one point during the episode, during their hunt for him, they tracked down his house, at least one of the houses he was staying at, but he booby-trapped it and it went off, killing a lot of red hats. And then later on, there was a van that Quail and Rashard had set up. Rashard had stolen a cadaver, and one that looked at least similar like himself, and he set it up in a van, put a bullet in his head, and set it on fire, basically making people think he was dead. Will didn't buy it, but his partner Bo is like, come on, Will, this is the perfect opportunity right here. You can just, they're giving us an out. We can just be like, okay, he's dead. But Will's like, no, this SOB put a gun in my wife's face. I want him. And Bo's like, crap. He's like, he understands. And at one point in episode, Will, finally put all this information out. Takes all the information that he had gathered about Rashard and went to Katie, because they had dusted some fingerprints and found out that Rashard had been to the Katie's bar from time to time, and Katie was a little shocked. She had to kind of hold back her shock that they had pieced that together, which we know. Obviously, he's been to the bar a couple times. That's one of the places they've met up to exchange information. And Will tells Katie some of the stuff that he's done. That basically he's kind of a hitman for the resistance. I mean, because at this point they're still under the impression that Broussard is the one who leads at least this specific cell of the resistance, because we found out a couple episodes ago that basically the resistance is kind of split up into cells. It's not just one huge conglomerate working all at once. It's like individual pieces moving individually. I know I do words good, right? Basically he shows her a picture and Will tells Katie all the stuff he's done. Like, for instance, this Santa Monica bombing, Katie was under the impression that basically they were going to help out the resistance people who did that whole bombing. No, Broussard wiped them out. He killed all of them. And she found out all the other stuff he did, like killing that lady and her husband. The lady who was previously Will's boss. Will kind of sort of took her position as the head of the unit. Her and her husband a couple, like 2 or 3 episodes ago. And just seeing all that, Katie, and with Katie's trust already kind of shaken with the resistance, she goes, yeah, I think I've seen him from time to time. Told Will some of the stuff that she knew about him, that he had told her, like about his mom and everything. They used that information to kind of track him down. Katie gets a visit from another resistance member who kind of, eases her mind about this whole situation, because she goes, Broussard doesn't want, he doesn't believe that you're like a double agent or something. We all know that's kind of just Quell's thing. But she was basically like, out of anyone, Broussard opens up. Like, he's not the opening up type, but he kind of opens up to you. He trusts you. And that kind of makes Katie feel a little guilty, so she gets in contact with Broussard, and she's like, they're coming for you, meaning Will is. And by the time Will and them get there, boom, Broussard's gone. Interestingly enough, as Will is exiting the house, because nearby, I'm not sure why he was there. I guess he was there visiting Broussard or something, but we see Will actually interact with Quell, not even realizing he's talking to the leader of the particular cell he's looking for. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. It's like, I'm sure Quell still has his suspicions of Katie, and it makes you wonder just how this is all going to turn out. Like, Will is getting closer and closer by the second. And makes you wonder, will he ever find out about Katie? That's all I really want to cover in this episode. So until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.